I'm Shannon Ireland, your host of a Healthy Push podcast. I struggled with anxiety, panic disorder, and agoraphobia for 15 years. Everything used to be hard for me. Even just driving 5 minutes from my house used to feel impossible. But now I absolutely live for travel and adventure, and I experience lots of peace and joy. I've not only reclaimed my life, but I've helped hundreds of others to do the same. Here, we stop managing anxiety and instead we create a healthy relationship with it. One where you say goodbye to the anxious thoughts, symptoms, panic attacks, and fears, and you actually live your life. Forget complicated strategies, quick fixes, or the same old hacks you've heard 100 times before. Each week, I'll bring you simple, actionable advice and honest conversations that lead to real, long-term healing. You aren't just an anxious person, my friend. There are reasons why you're struggling with anxiety, and these are things you can fix and heal from. And this is where that journey begins. Welcome. You're right where you're meant to be. Hello, and welcome back to a Healthy Push podcast. So I want to talk to you about something that I really believe can completely change the way you understand panic disorder and agoraphobia, and also the way you think about it. Because a lot of people believe that their struggle is about places. I often hear, Shannon, I really can't go into stores. I can't drive on the highway. I can't sit in restaurants. I can't be in traffic. I can't travel. And it really feels as though those places are the problem. And I totally get this. I felt this same exact way. Like I literally was convinced driving was the problem, being far from home was the problem, like every place and situation was the problem. But the truth is, panic disorder and agoraphobia are not about places. They are about the fear of fear. They're really about the fear of panic showing up, especially when you feel like you can't control it. And you might often feel it right in places that you feel stuck and trapped. And it makes so much sense. But I think had I really been able to see this and understand this back when I was struggling, I think it would have shifted quite a bit for me because I really did think, no, it's the places, it's the situations. Like I just need to have more practice. I need to get better at being in these places and situations or I would just avoid. And neither of those are the solution. So in this episode, I just want to talk to you about what's actually going on because once you have more understanding, I think recovery really starts to make a lot more sense. And I'll also, of course, share some of my own experiences with you because I remember how confusing and just awful this all felt when I was in it. So when someone's struggling with panic disorder and agoraphobia, they often have a list of places and situations that feel impossible. Maybe for you, it's grocery stores or highways, which is incredibly common, bridges, restaurants, lines, traffic, planes, public transportation, like the list can go on. And all of these make so much sense. It makes sense that these places and situations feel impossible because I'm sure you felt stuck, trapped, and anxious in them before. And your brain remembers these moments. Like our brains are really not good at letting go of these moments because they're protective. And also, they're really good at throwing these memories at us, especially when you're like in the car, you're about to hit that red light or that left turn, and your brain's like, ooh, remember when we were in this situation before? Remember how that went? And you can find yourself very quickly spiraling. Like, trust me, I totally get it. This was me with traffic. Like, anytime I saw the red lights on the back of cars, like the brake lights, I would just brace and basically talk myself into a panic attack. Like it was so awful. And I really was convinced like it's traffic. Traffic's the problem. Like I have to avoid traffic. I started looking at maps and like making sure that I could call my mom. And it was so incredibly frustrating and draining. But the thing is, traffic was never the problem. And for you, whatever you might be convincing yourself of is the problem, like the highway or public transportation, it's not these things, right, that are really the problem. What makes these things feel so dangerous is the thought, the worry, the fear of what might happen inside of your body when you are there, right? And this is such an important distinction because the fear isn't really, I'm scared of traffic. I'm scared of the highway. The fear is, I'm scared to panic. Like, what if I have a panic attack there? And let's just be real, right? Panic attacks suck. Like, they are so uncomfortable. They can be so incredibly scary. And I think for a lot of people, why panic attacks are so incredibly hard is because they feel really unpredictable. Like they often show up out of the blue. And even though you might often feel really anxious in certain places and situations, I think it can still feel really unpredictable. Like, is my body going to go there? Like when I start to approach the red light or traffic or get on public transportation or whatever it is, that unpredictability of it all creates so much fear. That unknown, right? I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know how my body's going to react. And your brain starts asking questions like, what if it does hit while I'm here, right? Like, what if I suddenly freak out and panic? What if it gets really bad? The what ifs can make things so incredibly hard in the moment. But also, when your brain starts asking these questions, often in the same places and situations, it gets stuck sort of in these cycles and it begins looking for danger everywhere. Like it's constantly scanning, not because the places and situations around you, like the things that are happening, are dangerous, but because panic once showed up there. And of course, your brain goes, yeah, let's avoid that happening again, right? Like, we don't want that to happen. And so, you've probably found certain things like being in certain places and situations to be really, really difficult. And it's so incredibly frustrating because it often starts with like one place, one situation, and then it trickles into another and into another. Because again, it's not about the place or situation, it's about that fear of fear. And I have to say, another big layer of this, all of this, like fear of fear, is the fear of losing control. A lot of people who are struggling with panic attacks, panic disorder, they have a lot of thoughts like, what if it happens and it gets really bad? Like, what if I completely lose it? What if it looks like the worst panic attack I've ever had? Or what if it is the worst panic attack I've ever had? What if I pass out? What if I can't stop it? What if it doesn't stop? And when your body is flooded with adrenaline and panic symptoms, it can really truly feel like something terrible is happening. And you don't have that logical part of your brain to rely on, where your brain is just like, oh, yeah, it's just adrenaline. Like, this is just a panic attack. We're okay. You're feeling all the feelings. Your heart's racing. You feel dizzy. You feel detached. Your body might be shaking. All of these things are happening. And of course, your brain is interpreting all of this as something is wrong. And so you can quickly find yourself spiraling and going to all the places. And so it makes sense that your brain tries to prevent that experience from happening again. But I always say this fear of losing control, it really just is the fear of fear, because what does losing control even mean, right? Like having a panic attack truly feels like you are losing control, but you've never lost control of your mind, of your body. Maybe it has felt that way, but that's never actually been the reality. But I think it's so important to talk about this fear of losing control, because this was one of the biggest struggles for me and often where my brain went. It was not like, oh, you might panic and it's going to be a little tricky or hard or awful. No, my brain was like, it is going to be the worst, 10 out of 10. You're going to need help. You're not going to be able to get it. Like, my brain went to all the freaking places. And if this sounds familiar, this is just because all of our brains work very similarly. Like, they are protective, they're creative, they go to all the freaking places. So, another part of this that's really important to talk about is the fear of being stuck, the fear of being trapped. This is such a huge one because many of the places that you might avoid share something in common. They likely feel hard to escape from. Like, if you really think about it, traffic, highways, bridges, planes, restaurants, lines, public transport, all these things, these situations really create thoughts like, what if I'm stuck? What if I can't leave when I need to? What if I'm too far from, quote, safety? What if I can't get help, right? All these things, your brain starts really looking for and prioritizing easy escape routes. Like, I need to make sure that I can get out, that I can get out safely and quickly if I do feel, which is often why people feel safest, like near their car or near exits or close to safe people or safe places, like maybe hospitals or just places that you know and are familiar with. And of course, home. Like, people often feel safest at home, of course. And it's not because the other places are unsafe, but your brain wants a way out if panic happens, which makes so much sense. And having a way out can feel like it gives your brain some relief, gives you some relief, right? Like, as long as I know my car is nearby, or as long as I know I'm not too far from home. And this makes things really hard because you can very quickly start to limit and restrict because you have such a big fear of feeling stuck and just feeling that fear. And you want to make sure that you're going to be safe and in control at all times. I have to say here too, because I'm just thinking about it. The other day, I went with Amelia and we went to get pedicures, and she also got a manicure. And I'm sitting there thinking, my God, like, years ago, this would have felt, it did feel so torturous. Like, it was not something that I ever really did because it was never enjoyable. Like, I would sit there at nail appointments, hair appointments, doctor's appointments, and just be consumed with the thought of, like, I'm stuck. I can't just say I need to leave. Like, I'm literally in the middle of getting my nails, my hair, whatever done. And I feel so scared because I feel stuck. And that feeling stuck, feeling trapped is one of the hardest things because you really do convince yourself, like, I'm going to freak out. I'm going to have a panic attack. I'm going to freak out and it's going to be really bad. And it's so hard because it takes away any sense of presence and enjoyment. Like, I was sitting there with Amelia and she, of course, is so cute, like getting her nails done, and people are coming up to us and making comments. And I just, oh, I will get emotional even now thinking about it. But I'm like, I could never have enjoyed something like this, especially with my child, because that would have added another layer of, like, I can't just leave. And I especially can't leave because I have my small child with me and like all the things. And I just was looking around and looking at the people that were getting, their nails done. And I'm just like, oh, people love this, right? Like, it's calming, you're present, you're doing something that brings you joy. But back when people would say this to me, like, I love going to get my nails done, I love going to get my hair done, like, my mom was always that person, still is to this day. And I would just think, you're mental. Like, that is torture for me. That, for years, that was like the worst of the worst. And why would you put yourself in situations like that? Right. So it makes so much sense. Like, I always tell my students, you've got to give yourself grace because it makes so much sense why you fear being stuck, being trapped. You really just are fearing feeling. And it's so hard because you have felt so much and you felt overwhelming, scary feelings. So it makes so much sense that these things are hard for you. But like I always tell them, it's not always going to be hard, right? It's not always going to be hard. Okay, so another layer of this that I feel like I really need to talk about is the fear of being seen, because this is a layer that does not get talked about enough, but it's something that I see daily in my work with my students, and it's such a big one, and it makes so much sense. It's the fear of being seen struggling, right? People often have the thoughts of, what if people notice me feeling anxious? What if people see me panicking? Like, what if I panic in front of everyone? What if I embarrass myself? What if I look crazy? So suddenly, places with people in them feel even more threatening because now it's not just panic that you're afraid of, it's panic plus judgment. And none of us want to feel judged or embarrassed, right? I remember one of the hardest things for me was being in cars with people. Like, I did not want to have to be in a car with people ever, because I didn't want to have a moment of anxiety or panic and totally freak out in front of anyone. And honestly, I think back and it's so sad because this even used to be with my mom, who I've always been extremely close with, I trust her, feel comfortable with her, but to even look at my own mom and say, I'm not okay, would have been was so hard for me. Like, I think I remember only doing that a couple of times. And of course, my mom being so understanding and empathetic and just compassionate. But it is so hard to have other people see you feeling not okay, because I think so many of us get this message. Like, we pretend like everyone is just walking around fine, but like we're not fine and it's okay to not be fine. But I think it's so hard for so many of us, especially I'm speaking to my fellow millennials here. Like, we grew up, right, with a lot of the messaging of you don't talk about it, you don't feel your feelings, you especially don't tell people, I feel scared, I feel anxious, I feel like I didn't even know how to recognize that myself, never mind tell it to somebody else. But I feel like we got a lot of that messaging of you don't talk about your feelings. And if you do, it doesn't lead to good things, right? Usually you're told you're fine, you're being ridiculous, you're being dramatic, whatever it is. And that is so hard, like, to get years of that messaging and then try to unpack that and, like, honestly do the opposite of that. Like, allow yourself to actually be vulnerable, to acknowledge your feelings, to allow yourself to feel them and to share them and, like, let people see it. It's so hard. And so this is just another big layer, like the embarrassment, the judgment, the shame. It's all stuff that I work daily with students on because a lot of people have built up an incredible amount of shame, and they are continuing to try to do anything and everything to not let people see it. And this, of course, makes things so much harder when you are not letting yourself have your feelings and allow yourself to be vulnerable and to let people in and get that support. Like, it makes things so incredibly hard. So if you have this fear of being seen, I just want you to know you're so not alone. This is such a common fear. It's such a common experience. Like, none of us as humans want to feel that judgment, that embarrassment, that shame. So it totally makes sense. So I feel like this is probably incredibly annoying because I've said it so much in this episode, but I really want you to understand this. Like, it makes sense that places and situations are getting linked to fear. Your brain has connected certain locations and situations with danger, not because the place or situation is dangerous, but because anxiety once happened there. Like, maybe you had a panic attack, right, in the store. And so your brain is like, grocery store equals danger. Or maybe it was on the highway. And so, of course, your brain is like, highway equals unsafe. It's really, truly just your brain trying to protect you. And unfortunately, it's made some very false associations. This was very true for me. Like I said, I had a laundry list of places that felt impossible in situations, driving, stores, restaurants, traffic, like pretty much anywhere, any situation where I felt trapped or far from safety. And when I say far from safety, I'm talking like 2 minutes, right? And it's funny, not funny, but for a long time, I truly believed the places, the situations were the problem. I thought, if I just go at them or if I have more practice or if I avoid them, like, I'll be okay. But what I ended up doing, right, was creating so much resistance to anxiety, and I was shrinking my world. And when you avoid places to prevent panic, you create more chaos because your brain associates so much with danger. But the bigger problem is your brain never learns that you can handle feeling anxious. And so that fear just keeps growing. And what eventually helped me was realizing something really important. The goal wasn't to control panic, like to make it not happen, to make myself never feel anxious or for my body to go there. The goal was really to allow myself to feel it and to change my relationship with it. The real work in recovery from panic disorder and agoraphobia isn't about making sure panic never happens, isn't making sure you never feel anxious. It's showing yourself that even when anxiety shows up, you can handle it, you can feel it, you can support yourself through the feelings, and you can continue living your life with it being there. And the more your brain learns that you're safe, even when panic happens, the less threatening those situations start to feel and those places. And over time, the grocery store stops feeling so scary. The highway stops feeling so scary, all the things. And it won't be because you forced anxiety away. It'll be really because you stopped treating it like an emergency and you've started to actually allow it in and make space for it. And then it shows up less and less. So if you're someone who feels like your world has gotten a lot smaller, if you have places and situations, like a list of places and situations that feel impossible, I just want you to really recognize and remember it's not the store, it's not the highway, it's not the restaurant, it's not the plane. It's really this fear of fear and that fear of panic showing up. And the beautiful thing about this is that when you change your relationship with anxiety, the places and the situations stop feeling dangerous. And that fear of fear starts to subside and your world gets bigger again. And this is exactly what recovery looks like. So I just have to say this. I usually don't say this, but I feel like this is one of those episodes. If you found it to be helpful, I would love it if you would share it with someone who you think might need to hear this. I think there are so many people out there struggling with panic and especially agoraphobia who don't even really realize that that's part of the mix. And they need to hear this stuff. And they need that education and the validation and just to be heard and seen and get some support that's actually going to help them. And I really want to encourage, if you want to dig in and do more of the work on creating a healthy relationship with your thoughts, with your feelings, with the symptoms and panic, all of it, I want you to check out my mini course on overcoming panic attacks. You will get so many practical tools and mindset shifts that will help you to stop coping and managing and actually start healing and finally feeling safe in your mind and your body again. So I will put that link in the show notes. And I just want to give you that healthy nudge. If you really are ready and you're like, I'm sick of it. I'm so sick of carrying this fear of fear. I'm constantly worried about having panic attacks. I want to get freedom from this. That class will be so incredibly helpful for you. Okay, until next time, my friend, keep taking healthy action. I hope you loved this episode of A Healthy Push. If you have, I'd be so grateful if you could leave me a rating and review wherever you're listening to this podcast. This helps people to find the show and get the support they need. And if you know someone who could use a little push, be sure to share this episode with them. And for even more support, head over to ahealthypush.com for show notes and loads of tips, tools, and inspiration to help you on your recovery journey. I'll see you next week.